accepted, challenge accepted. Reality is always challenge accepted. Challenge accepted, challenge accepted. Reality is always challenge accepted.
Okay, now it's time to present our first speaker.
Ilko Valchev is the IT team lead at NetPulse and front-end wizard with over 7 years of experience.
He's also a dogs trainer, board games maniac, and obsessed about car detailing. But today he is here to talk about Jank.
Jank?
No, the problem is not my English this time. Jank is what happens when your app starts feeling like it's running on dial-up connection from 90s.
Ilko is going to break down the rendering process, talk about screen speed, and how to make everything look smooth and fast. So please make some noise for Ilko Valchev!
Okay, first problem already. Great start. Thank you guys for the introduction, very nice. Okay, let's start and get this show on the road. Okay. Let's try again. Much better. Okay, so hello everyone. Thank you for coming. Thank you to the MCs for the great presentation. So before I actually start the talk, I want to say something that I'm going to do during my talk. I saw it in a conference once this year, and I thought the idea was really cool, so of course I decided to steal it. It's not my idea, I stole it as many Eastern Europeans do. So the idea is that I'm going to ask some questions during my talk, and whoever wants to answer or raise their hand, I will throw them a chocolate if they want to try and eat some chocolate. So we can start this with a simple question like, who already had their coffee today? Okay, here you go. If I hit you on the head, I'm sorry, here you go. Anyone else? Okay, great. So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to take my anger out on you guys and throw chocolates at you. Okay, so there is some junk in my app. As the MC said, this is not a typo, it's actually junk, and what it means we are going to learn about later. And today, this is Detective Steve. He usually helps me out with these kinds of stuff. Although he can be mean to me sometimes, hopefully today he's on my good side. He's going to help me out, but I don't know. We'll see. A little bit about myself. As I said already, my name is Ilko Valchev. I've been an IT team lead at NetPulse for the past 3 years and also a front developer for the past 7. Some of my hobbies include dog training, hiking, and playing board and video games. Who here likes to play board or video games or both? Woohoo! A lot of people, nice. Anyone from over here? Anyone over there? Can I reach you guys? Okay, one more. Great. And let me tell you a little bit about NetPulse. We are a sports data company. We gather sports data for more than 80 sports. Honestly, I've worked there for 10 years, and most of the sports I don't even know what they are, but we have them. We've been on the market for more than 20 years. We have offices internationally like Sofia, Plovdiv, Prague, and Copenhagen. And we also have quite a big portfolio of products like XML pushes, we have an API, we have entire hosted solutions, and also we provide widgets, which are the main star of this talk today. Moving on to the main topic at hand, how I had to find out about Jank. The 2022 World Cup preparation. And yeah, as Steve is saying, it was a beautiful morning. I was ready to do some actual good work. And all of a sudden, my product owner decided to chat me up, saying, hey, Ilko, the widget that we made for the World Cup is not working too well. I checked it on my phone, and it's not doing too great. This is the widget he was talking about. It's our formations widget, which, judging by the name, it shows the team's formation, also its substitution, and depending on what the player did, it shows incidents like goals, red cards, rating, etc. So for such a small amount of space, we have per team something in the sense of like 60 plus elements. So for such a small amount of space, it's quite a lot. And this is going to matter in a few seconds. So we had a video talk, and he actually showed me, yeah, it wasn't working. So at first I was a bit surprised because the development was done, all of the QA testings have passed, we tested on multiple devices, on multiple environments, but indeed, when he showed me on his phone as he was scrolling to our site, when he got to the formations widget, it really started to stutter, to lag, the UI wasn't smooth. But what I noticed when we were having the video call is that his phone was a bit older than the devices at the time. This was like 2021, so for that time, yeah, it was quite an older device. So maybe this was a mistake from us that we didn't test with older device. So what he said after that, I think everyone knows, is the most favorite phrase that a product owner has when there is an issue that they say to the developer. Does anyone know what it is? Perfect. Either fix it or can we fix this fast? It's never what could we do to do it better? No, just fix it. So, wait. Firstly, as I said, his phone was a bit older than what we tested with, but we didn't have older devices. So I decided to check it out by taking. A good thing is that I keep my old phones available, so I decided to dust out this old beauty. It's my old Huawei Honor 5C, and I stopped using it by 2019, but I figured out that, yeah, some people still use older phones, so it's good to check on them as well. So, if the gods let me, I don't know if maybe for the video they can show it, but when I scroll to it, I don't know if anyone can see right now, but I'll show it on the slides later. It's really stuttering, elements are being loaded, reloaded, appearing, disappearing, so it's not working well. And here is what I mean for everyone in the audience who couldn't take a look at the phone. As you can see, elements are having a long time to appear, it's stuttering, it's lagging when you scroll through it, so indeed there was an issue. Okay, yeah, thank you, Steve. And back then, there wasn't advanced AI models like ChatGPT, etc., or at least they weren't that popular yet. So I had to do things the old-fashioned way and start Googling stuff. And as I was Googling, I came upon this term, which is the main topic today, jank. And what is jank? Before I tell you, does anyone know what it refers to? Okay, no chocolate this time. Maybe next year. So, the official terminology is that it refers to defects or low-quality processes that lead to poor response times for software or that impede user operations. Most of these refer to interface manipulation. Exactly when I read that, a light bulb moment came into my head. This is exactly my issue. The user interface was not being smooth, and it impeded the user operations. Also, there is a slang version, which, by the way, I didn't come up with myself. There is actually an Urban Dictionary for it, but as I was searching, I found that I thought it was kind of cool, so I added it to the presentation if you want to check it out. So speaking about devices, as I was talking with my product owner, let's look at the browser and the device's hardware and why they are both important. How monitors determine the browser's response time? Jank is simply the web page not being able to keep up with the display monitors refresh rate. Generally, display monitors refresh at 60 times per second. Of course, there are faster ones, but most of the people use display monitors with, with a refresh rate of 60 times per second. So this is what I'm going to use as a reference. And when there is motion on the screen, the browser tries to keep up by creating 60 frames per second. And when we break down this number, we get 16.67 milliseconds for one frame. And does anyone know how do we get this number, 16.67 milliseconds? Okay, although Steve advised me not to tell you guys, and it's because it's a big secret, like maybe someone will escort me after the conference and talk me over there in the corner about it, but I'm going to tell you guys. It's quite a simple formula. Basically, the milliseconds are equal to the amount of frames times 1,000 divided by the frames per second. So in our example, we have one frame multiplied by 1,000 divided by 60 frames per second, and that's how we get 16.67 milliseconds. And in that time, the browser in one frame has to complete everything in the main thread for that frame. And as you can see, it's not a lot of time. And if it exceeds this time, we will have junk. Continuing with hardware, the CPU and the GPU. The CPU handles JavaScript execution, layout calculations, style recalculations, and if the CPU is overwhelmed by complex tasks like heavy JavaScript execution, complex layout calculations, frequent DOM updates, then it can block the main thread, causing junk. And the GPU is responsible for rendering graphics, handling animations, and creating compositing layers. It deals with tasks like rendering elements to the screen, handling transitions, and managing textures. And junk can occur with the GPU if it's overwhelmed by complex rendering tasks like high-resolution images or heavy CSS animations. And which one do you think is more critical or causes more junk, the CPU or the GPU? Anyone care to take a guess? Who said CPU? You're wrong. The GPU guy is wrong, I mean. So generally, the CPU is the primary cause for junk because the CPU must complete all of its tasks before the GPU can render a frame. And if the CPU is too slow, then the GPU won't receive frames to render quickly enough, leading to noticeable junk. Of course, GPU junk can occur, which is usually caused by visual stutters during animations or transitions, but are less common than CPU-induced junk, unless you're dealing with graphically intensive content. What are the steps in the rendering process? Firstly, does anyone know how many steps there are in the rendering process? Okay, there are 4 steps. The first one being style. And it's combining the DOM and CSS DOM into a render tree, and it determines which CSS rules apply to which CSS elements. So for example, the head element and elements that have the display none property won't be part of the rendered output, so they won't be a part of the render tree as well. However, elements with visibility hidden do take up space in the rendered output, even though it's not visible, so they will be part of the render tree. The second step is layout, the process by which the dimensions and location of all the nodes in the render tree are determined, and subsequent changes in the layout are called reflows. The third step, paint. In the painting or rasterization phase, the browser converts each box calculated during the layout phase to actual pixels on the screen. And painting involves actually drawing the visual parts of an element to the screen, like text, colors, borders, shadows, etc. And the browser has to do this super quickly. And the last step is compositing. And compositing is necessary to ensure that the sections of the documents are drawn to the screen in the right order and the content is rendered correctly. And as the page continues to load assets, reflows can happen, and a reflow will trigger a repaint and a recomposite. Something important to note about the steps in the rendering process is that each step triggers the ones that come after it, but not vice versa. So for example, layout will trigger a repaint and a recomposite. However, paint will not trigger a layout. So it's important when we are dealing with these steps to limit the amount that are triggered to as little as possible. And how do I know which CSS properties could cause jank? Thankfully, there is a handy list which tells us which CSS properties trigger which steps in the rendering process. I've cited the site below in the sources, but if you Google CSS triggers, you will find it immediately. And for example, I've decided to use box and text shadow. And as you can see, when their value is changed from the default one, basically all of the steps in the rendering process are triggered: layout, paint, and composite. And even on every subsequent change or update, again, on each update, all of the steps are triggered. So on every update, you have layout, paint, and composite. So if we go back to the widget, because as I said, we have more than 60 plus elements in the widget, which is quite a lot for such a small amount of space. Imagine if all of them have box or text shadow, or in some cases even both. And for all of these 60 plus elements, you have to trigger each of the steps in the rendering process. So you can start to think that, yeah, it might cause jank. And it did. In comparison, here is the cursor property, which at most will trigger the paint and composite steps. However, in most cases, it will either trigger none of them or just the composite layer. So this is good. Also, keep in mind when dealing with large-scale images. Resizing images with CSS or the image dimension properties or with JavaScript also is not a good practice and could also lead to jank. So preferably, you would need to work with already scaled down images to avoid this. And what was my case? Not a very pretty case. Everything is red, as you can see, nothing green. I promise it wasn't a cover-up. Everyone knew about this. And as you can see, there are 29 deletions, which we all know doesn't seem like a lot. But in the context that there was no changes in any JavaScript logic or whatever, I was only deleting properties like box and text shadow. Then in this context, I think it's quite a lot. So my culprits were box and text shadow. And after fixing all of these issues, as an example, first I'm showing you again the janky widget, and after that we'll see the result after removing just a couple of CSS properties, which is nothing complex, but as you can see, can make a huge difference. As you can see, there are no elements appearing, disappearing, appearing again, or it's smooth scrolling. So without touching any JavaScript, just CSS, which is my point of this talk, we had a big change in the widget's UI. And how do we analyze and debug these types of issues? The straight-up answer is Chrome's performance tab, and is the most useful one, to be honest. By simulating conditions, looking at the main thread, inspecting the frame section, and also using the FPS meters. Below, I've listed a very in-depth article about the performance tab. I suggest you read it, even though Steve advises me not to tell you to read it. And also, the site below is very good for testing and actually seeing what jank feels like on any device, because trust me, no matter what device you're running, at a certain point, it will start to get janky. So how do we simulate conditions in the performance tab? So we have two options. The first one is CPU throttling. And what it means is that we just slow down the speed of our CPU by n amounts of times that are listed as options in the dropdown. And the second one is hardware concurrency. And what it means is that it limits the amount of cores that you are going to use for your performance check. So in this case, I want to use only one core, and the speed is slowed down 20 times. And the main thread, what we need to look out for in the main thread. Yes, this could look quite intimidating if you haven't dealt with this before, but trust me, after you take a look at it a couple of times, go through it, it will start to get quite easy. So the first thing are long tasks. You almost cannot miss them because they will be painted in some type of red and they will be quite noticeable. And as you can see, this task, for example, took more than 2 seconds to complete, which as we know is quite a lot for one task. Not the entire page, only one task. And since we're talking about the visual parts, not the scripting, because we can have long tasks because of JavaScript, but this is not the point. We're talking about the rendering and painting. And as you can see, the rendering and painting themselves took more than 300 milliseconds to complete. So this is quite a lot. The second thing we need to look out for are the long processes. So if you see these types of processes like recalculate style, location, and paint, if you see them often and a lot, it means there will be some kind of problem because these processes indicate heavy DOM operations which will most likely lead to jank if you have a lot of them. The frame section. As standard, green means good, everything was rendered in time, perfect. The yellow one, the partially presented frame. It means that Chrome did its best to at least render some of the visual updates in the frame, but could not do it, render everything. And the dropped frame, or the red frame, it means that the frame was dropped entirely and there wasn't enough time to render the frame, so it was dropped. And the FPS meter. It's a really handy tool which can give you indication first, initially, whether you need to actually do an in-depth check before you decide to do so. And how do we use this FPS meter? So first you open your DevTools and run the show frames per second command. And once you run that command, you will see this window pop up at the top left of your web page. And as Steve says, this is very good, very nice. Because if you see a lot of frames and you don't see any red in the bar below, you're good. Maybe if you want to check out further, go ahead, but for the bigger part, you will be fine. However, if you see low amounts of frames and a lot of red or yellow, then you need to go ahead and do an in-depth check. Something very important to note is that there is never a perfect solution. You should consider the trade-offs in your situation and take an informed decision. Now, the point of my talk was not to tell you, this is what you need to do, these are the problems, this is how you need to fix them, and what you need to do all the time. That's not it. My point was to give you the information and the tools you need in order to consider what works for your case. In our case, we valued performance much more than the styling because even as you saw, removing these styles didn't actually change the feel and the visual look of the widget. So we decided to go ahead with performance, and that's why we removed everything. But of course, in some cases, you cannot have a good-looking style without using any of these heavy properties at all. Because even width and height, as we saw with box and text shadow, even width and height, which we often tend to change, they trigger all of the steps as well. But most of the times, you cannot go ahead without using them. So think about it, consider what's the demographic that's going to use your application, where it's going to be used, what kind of devices they're going to use, and decide what to do based on that. Okay, thank you, Steve. He finally agrees with me. So yeah, thank you guys very much for your time. If you want to connect with me, here are my where you can find me. And also I have to say my proudest moment of this talk is that Steve at the end finally agreed with me, approved this message. So thank you guys, and I hope you learned something. So if you have any questions now, feel free to ask, or if you prefer, you can meet me anywhere in the conference or at a speaker's corner. So thank you. Thank you very much. So, yeah, are there any questions?
Do you have any questions for Ilko?
Does anyone want chocolate then? I have a question.
There's one.
You want chocolate? Here you go.
2 questions there.
I think it's more about the chocolate, not so much the questions. I mean, I don't have a white van outside, so it's okay. I'm just giving the chocolate here. Anyone else want chocolate?
Oh, thank you.
Аз имам въпрос.
Да?
Може ли шоколад?
Yes.
Благодаря.
I won't play you Uda po tebe, but I'll give you
So
chocolate.
there are two questions.
Anyone
at
else?
least.
Are there actually questions?
Yes, there are two at least I saw there. Come on, where's the mic?
Mike is here, but question is not here because they...
There is the raised hand.
I'm confused already if it's chocolate or just a question. I don't know. The chocolate is the preferred option.
Какво предпочиташ човека да дойде при тебе? Фърли му микрофона.
Hello. You mentioned a lot of times that the product owner actually saw that not during QA phase, and then you mentioned a few times, okay, you should use those tools, look at those look for those red frames, etc. Did you guys build any kind of automation where you can basically measure this jankiness of applications?
Basically, at the time, because this was like 3 years ago, we didn't have any automation, unfortunately, in for finding this out, because as I said, basically this was new for everyone, even for me, so we didn't expect this. So yeah, unfortunately, maybe that's why we missed it. And as I said, on newer devices it was fine, but on older devices was the issue. So the main problem here was not so much the automation, but that we didn't consider the fact that there are people who use older devices and not faster devices as there were at the time. But yeah, to answer your question, no, we didn't have automation.
There's another.
What about now? Sorry.
From our young friends.
What?
Do you have now?
Yes, we have now, but I guess this was more for the QA talk yesterday. But yeah, we do. Lessons learned.
One of our youngest friends here have a question.
Do you have a chocolate also with the question? You have? Okay. I was going to give you another one, but...
Oh my God. Ти си подготвил за много въпроси.
Okay, my question is, you showed some tools we could use to test in browsers and stuff, but how would we just test if it's an Android app or an iOS app with Kotlin or Swift or something like that?
To be honest, I can't give a specific answer because we haven't done any Android or iOS apps, so unfortunately I cannot give you any help there. But also, as I was looking, I couldn't actually find any tools. So I don't know, maybe some type of simulation that again could go into the browser so that you check in your app basically in the browser is what I would go with initially.
Any more questions?
Any more? I think there is
there are chocolates about
chocolate or question?
70 questions more.
I think there is a question over there.
Hi guys. It's not technically a question, but can you revert the slides back to the tools that you showed?
Do you want me to go back to the slides? I couldn't understand.
Yeah, with the tools that were listed, so we can take a photo.
The Chrome performance tab? Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
You can also reverse the video recording of the conference also and
Good point.
No, if I don't, but they can't see it. Can we put it on the screen?
meanwhile the mic could go to the next question. There is one more question.
Coming.
2 minutes and 30 seconds for questions.
I have to give one chocolate to the microphone guy. He needs some energy after that.
Thank you. I wanted to ask, did you discuss in your team the possibility of adjusting the quality of the elements based on the model of the telephone that's being used and its processing powers?
That's a really good question, and that's why in my last not speech, but in my last slide, I said that you also need to consider where the users of your app are. So yes, it's also a good idea, and afterwards we did it to, if it's like in India, based on some geolocation, etc., to have different versions of the application, so we make sure that it's running smoothly everywhere and looking good everywhere as well. So yeah, this is something also I would recommend. If you have a large amount of users spaced out all over the world. Yeah.
One more question, last one for now. No one?
Oh, okay. Is the medical bill covered by the conference or by me?
It's not.
Probably by who? By me? Okay, then who wants a chocolate? I mean, if I'm going to pay, then let me just do some damage to you. Any more chocolate?
If you didn't get a chance to ask Ilko your questions, you can go always to the speakers corner, which during the next break is called chocolate corner.
No blood, right? No blood, you're fine. Okay.
We have specially dedicated speakers corner or chocolate corner in this case, where we can meet Ilko and...
My speakers corner is outside at the white van, where I'm also giving the chocolate, so if anyone wants to come, feel free to come.
So thank you very much, Ilko.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please make...
Challenge accepted.
I have a lot of stuff over there.
So as we already say, you may have many questions today, and let me explain to you how this works.
Each speaker has a 30 minutes slot. If they speak 30 minutes, no question. If they speak for 25 minutes, 2 minutes for questions. If they speak 10 minutes, 20 minutes for question. If they speak 15 minutes...
Okay, we got. Molim tebe, bratko, molim tebe, molim. Let's not lose precious time. We got no time for questions now. If you didn't get to ask your questions, you can, as we said, find all our speakers in the speaker corner in the first break after their relevant talk.
So enjoy your break, stay curious, and remember, when the challenge accepted jingle is played, you get back to the hall.
Challenge accepted.